the opposite side of things, you said you had a specific interest in species at risk. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so species at risk, especially in the Great Lakes watershed, it's something of a personal interest of mine, but also professional as well. So living where I live here in Hamilton, specifically in Dundas too, you see the importance of ecosystems and keeping that biodiversity alive. And knowing what I know and what I've learned through DFO, it's even more crucial to raise awareness and tell the public about what they can do to help and let them have a voice too, because the most important thing that I've learned is that it's not just one person's problem. It's something that we all, as government agencies, not-for-profits, conservation groups, we need to work together on different levels and for different reasons to address the threats of these species and what we can do to ensure that they don't become endangered or threatened now or in the future. So species like red-side dace, American eel, all of these species undergo things through the Species at Risk Act. So COSAWIC will come to DFO and say, hey, we're going to potentially list this species. We need you to do a recovery strategy and develop an action plan on how we're going to either prevent or help reduce the likelihood of a species becoming extinct. I mean, inevitably, that's what we want to avoid. So where I come in as a communicator is I will work with the scientists, and when they come up with these recovery strategies and action plans, we go through a public consultation process because, like I said earlier, every voice counts, including the public, indigenous groups, landowners, lessees. Everybody has a role to play and a voice to be heard. So when these public consultations come out, what we're asking the public is saying, hey, this is a species that is being considered to go on the Species at Risk registry. What do you have to say about it? What is your opinion? What is your connection? Do you believe that it should be listed? If so, why? So we really make sure to, it's crucial, in fact, for DFO to make sure that we are going through this process to ensure that we're doing our due diligence to make sure that everybody else is not only aware, but that they can have a voice as well in this process. So once these public consultations have ended and we have everything we need from all these different groups and stakeholders, we will then start to implement these recovery strategies and action plans in order to either determine a listing of a species or hopefully prevent it from being listed at all.
And what can we do to protect our local fish?
The thing about advocacy, action, community, helping, conservation, is that anybody can be involved. It doesn't matter who you are or what your background is. We all have a role to play in the conservation of our, not only aquatic species, our species at risk, but even preventing invasive species and other habitat destruction. Something as small as joining a local nature group like Hamilton Naturalist Club and getting out and informing yourself. Go on a guided walk or a hike and learn about the world around you. Just having that awareness and knowing what's around you and where you live is the first step on knowing what you can do about it. I know a lot of these things can be overwhelming, so just starting small really makes a big difference. So on that level in community, there's so many groups where you can get involved. Invasive species pulls, doing cleanups in rivers and streams and parks and things like that. Or at a higher level, if you're in biology and or a technician with fisheries and oceans, for example, we do a lot of monitoring of the fish through electrofishing and tagging and things like that, so we can see long-term effects for our goals that we have in these recovery strategies that I talked about earlier. And even just things like if you're a homeowner and you have water by your property, ensuring that your embankments don't erode. Or if you are a boater or a fisherman, you want to make sure that you're disposing of things correctly, catching and releasing, you're abiding by the Fisheries Act. If you do catch or see an invasive species, make sure you're reporting it to the proper authorities like the Ministry of Natural Resources, or the Ontario Federation of Hunters and Anglers is another good one too. If you are a boater, making sure that you're stopping the spread and being very careful when you clean your boat, making sure it's clean, drying it in the sun for 48 hours, and making sure that you're not emptying your ballast tanks in inappropriate areas too. So all the runoff from everything too, making sure that that doesn't go back into the water that you just came out of. So, I mean, I could go on all day about all the different things that you can do. It starts at the grassroots level, but it starts at you, and it starts at me, and it starts at all of us. If we want to make sure that Coutts Paradise is protected for even more generations to come, there are so many different ways that you can help. And for me and my personal experience, a good way to start is go online and check out the websites for Fisheries and Oceans. We have an aquatic species at risk map where you can zone in on your area and learn about the species that are at risk right here at home. And there's lots of other tips and guidelines and policies that you can learn about and follow as well. Hamilton Naturalist Club, like I said, become a member, get out, come out to one of our monthly meetings and learn even more about the environment around us. There's just so much to learn. It's really exciting. It doesn't have to be doom and gloom. There's just as much here to love as there is to be concerned about and want to protect.
Thank you so much for sharing all that amazing information on fish with us, Rachel. I was wondering if you had a fun nature story to share with us.
Thank you for having me, first of all. This is very exciting. Any chance I get to talk about nature, I'm happy. I mean, not only is it my job, but it's my passion too. So thank you very much once again. I just want to point out that it is fall migration season for the salmon right now. So they are running their little hearts out, and it is so exciting to watch. Now that I live in Dundas, I went to take a walk just the other night because it's unseasonably warm here in late October in this area. I'm not complaining, but you know, that's for another video. I went down to watch the salmon run near in Dundas Valley, near where I live, and I just found it so fascinating to see the effort that it takes for them to do what they do year after year, and how fascinating it is that they can go right back to the area that they were born to spawn again. And there's not always a happy ending, because through all that effort, you know, they're not eating when they're doing this migration. They're expending so much energy that a lot of the species, at least, I mean, a lot of the Pacific species, they all die, but with Atlantic species and the Great Lakes species here, not all of them die. Some of them make it back, but it's not all for nothing. So what they'll do is come up stream and they'll spawn, they'll lay their eggs. A lot of them will die after this amazing adventure that they've been on. But what is really, really great about that, and again, it goes back to the ecosystems that we talked about earlier, is that they have so many essential nutrients that they're bringing from the oceans that the ecosystems and the species native to these areas wouldn't otherwise get. So when they die, with their carcass, it provides all these nutrients to the riparian zones that they've come back to, and it just provides so much of a gift to everything that is already here. So it's the gift that keeps on giving. It's a happy ending, even if it's sad, and I just find it fascinating that, you know, even through all their selfless or selfish adventures, they can give back so much in death, even as they do in life, which is really, really great. And we could all learn a thing or two from the salmon. Life can be an upstream battle, but there's a reward in the end.